Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Mary and today's video is going to be my Sorry Picks My TBR for the month of March. So if you are new here, I play Sorry, which is a TBR game that I created to pick my reads every month, or at least to pick prompts that I will be reading throughout that month. I usually start with 4 card pulls, which means that there will be 4 books definitely on my TBR every single month. And I pick based off the prompts that I land on in Sorry. I think that's pretty much the ground rules. It's pretty self-explanatory. If I draw a Sorry card, I add an extra book to my TBR. So without further ado, let's just jump into the prompts for this month. So we are starting once again over on Sci-Fi, where we left off last time. Move forward 5. That puts us on Fantasy. So the first prompt that I landed on was to read a fantasy, and for this, I'm gonna pick up the second book in the Game of Thrones series, which is A Clash of Kings by George R.R. Martin. This is an epic fantasy series. As you can see, these are quite large books. I read the first book, spoilers, in February, and this follows multiple families as they basically are fighting for the throne of these kingdoms. I don't really know how to explain it much better than that. There seems to be some sort of magic developing, but unclear as of now where I am what exactly that entails. I know there are dragons in this series and a few other magical things. There is a TV show, a very popular TV show on HBO from these books, but the book series itself has never been finished. So I don't know if it is going to be at this point. I believe that there are 2 books left to be written in this series. And it seems to me, I think the first or the next book was supposed to be published 10 plus years ago now, and it still is not. So I'm not reading these as if I'm going to finish this series, I don't think, but I do want to finally watch the show. I never watched the show because I wanted to wait to read the books, and I never read the books or started the books previously because I wanted to wait until the series was finished. At this point, I just want to know what the hype is about, and I thought it would be a fun way to read the books and then watch seasons of the show alongside the books to see where they really differ and where they are similar. I thought that would be a fun project for myself. At this point, I am planning on making videos about that, but I have not started the watching portion of that challenge yet. So hopefully I can get season 1 done so that I can start book 2 in March. Sorry, so we will be adding another book. Move forward 3. Young adult. The next card that I drew was a Sorry, so I will be reading 5 books this month. And the next prompt that I landed on was a young adult book. And for this, I'm gonna be reading The Sisters of the Winter Wood by Rena Rossner. And I pulled it up because I'm not sure exactly what this is about, but this is one of those books that I've had on my TBR since I got Goodreads in 2018. So it's been a long time. This book came out in September of 2018. And it says, raised in a small village surrounded by vast forests, Libba and Leia have lived a peaceful, sheltered life, even if they've heard of troubling times for Jews elsewhere. When their parents travel to visit their dying grandfather, the sisters are left behind in their new home in the woods. But before they leave, Libba discovers the secret that their Tati can transform into a bear and their mommy into a swan. Perhaps, Libba realizes, the old fairy tales are true. She must guard the secret carefully, even from her beloved sister. Soon, a troop of mysterious men appear in town, and Leia falls under their spell, despite their mother's warnings to be wary of strangers. And these are not only dangers lurking in the woods. The sisters will need each other if they are to become the women they need to be and save their people from the dark forces that draw near. This is set in Moldova in 1903, so I believe it is a historical fantasy. And it sounds not entirely similar, but it sounds like a similar setup, sort of, to Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik, which is a book that I really liked. It also has a couple things that I really enjoy. So people turning into animals, I think, is fun, and like folk magic is something that I tend to really like in books. I also love a book that explores female friendship and also a sister relationship, and it sounds like this will have both of those. So I am excited to finally read this book and get it off my TBR. And now we are in a tricky spot because I need to either get a 1, a backwards 4, or a 2, and then we'll see how long it takes me to get those. 2, that was actually really fast. Promise that wasn't planned. Okay, so now I'm gonna get blue out and we'll start over here on the start. Move forward 5. Romance. The next prompt that I landed on was to read a romance. And for this, I'm branching out a little bit from like a traditional romance, and I've picked Tess of the D'Urbervilles by Thomas Hardy, which is a classic. And I believe it is about like a woman who has to go live with like family somewhere else. I'll actually just read you the premise because I don't want to screw it up and I'm not entirely sure what this is about. But it says, when Tess D'Urberville is driven by family poverty to claim kinship with the wealthy D'Urbervilles and seek a portion of their family fortune, meeting her cousin, Alec, proves to be her downfall. A very different man, Angel Clare, seems to offer her love and salvation, but Tess must choose whether to reveal her past or remain silent in the hope of a peaceful future. So it's going to be a love triangle book. It's also very much a coming of age story, and it sounds like it's about choosing between two paths. Kind of off topic, but I saw a TikTok recently, and I wish I could remember the creator's name, but her intro is something like, hi, I'm an author and editor, and I help make your writing better or something. So if you know who she is, link her down below. But she made a TikTok. Basically, the gist of the TikTok was about how to know what age category your book is going to be in. And she pointed out something really interesting to me about young adult books. And so I'll share it here in case you haven't heard of it, but I didn't come up with this. And I'm sure other people know this, but I did not study like literature or anything in college. So basically she said that young adult stories are about a character having conflict within themselves and trying to decide what path they need to go on. It's why like coming of age stories are so popular for that time period, and that you can have a coming of age story set somewhere like at a different time in someone's life, but they're most common in YA. And she was talking about different devices that are really common for this. And she said love triangles are used in YA a lot to show the two paths very distinctly. So it like externalizes the internal conflict that the character is going through, because you have option A, like love interest A, who is someone who like embodies one path that the character could go down, and then love interest B is another path that would be like a change from the normal trajectory of the main character's life. And how the main character grapples with that is showing you how they're going to like make their decision that is going to affect the rest of their life. And it's like the choice that they make. And I thought that was so interesting. And I also think that might be why a lot of love triangles fail these days, at least to me, is because I don't think that all authors necessarily are utilizing a love triangle to be the externalization of the internal choice and internal conflict of the character. And so that made me like the idea of love triangles a lot more. And now I want to read more of them to see if I can pinpoint that that is what's happening. Because the example that immediately came to my mind was the Hunger Games. And people complain a lot about that love triangle. But I really do think the two love interests are absolutely physical manifestations of Katniss's choice. And I just find that fascinating. So you might have already known that because you are probably smarter than me, but I did not know that. And I have been talking about it every chance that I get since I found out. Move forward 10 or backwards 1. So backwards 1 would be a Black author, and forwards 10 is a prize book. I'm just gonna go Black author. The next prompt that I landed on was to read a book by a Black author, and for this I'm going to be reading Heads of the Colored People by Nafissa Thompson Spires. And this is a collection of short stories, I believe. I don't think they're essays. Yes, they're short stories. And it says, each captivating story plunges headfirst into the lives of new, utterly original characters. Some are darkly humorous, from two mothers exchanging snide remarks through notes in their kids' backpacks, to the young girl contemplating how best to notify her Facebook friends of her impending suicide, while others are devastatingly poignant. A new mother and funeral singer who is driven to madness with grief for the young Black boys who have fallen victim to gun violence, or the teen who struggles between her upper middle class upbringing and her desire to fully connect with Black culture. I'm excited about this. I do really enjoy short stories. I've mentioned this before. Short story collections are some of my favorite things. I also think this cover is very fun because it looks like silly bands almost, if you remember those. This book came out in 2018, so I'm not sure if that's what it's supposed to be, but that was what it brought to my mind originally. So this also has a really, really great rating on Goodreads. It's a 4.11, which is very promising for me. So I'm really hopeful that I would like this. I feel like a lot of short story collections end up in like 3 to 3.5, and I give a lot of them 3 stars. But also some of my favorite books of all time are short story collections. So I'm very excited to read this one. And the last pick, hopefully for this round, Move Forward 1. Romance Again. And the last prompt that I landed on for Sorry is another romance book. And for this, I'm going to be picking up The Key to Happily Ever After by Tiff Marcello, which was on my TBR for last month. Obviously, I'm putting it on this TBR, which means I did not get to it last month. But this is a book, again, it's about sister relationships. I believe it's 2 or 3 sisters whose family owns a wedding planning business, and they have to go home and help their parents with this business so it doesn't fail. And I believe this is closer to like contemporary chick lit than it necessarily is romance, because I really do think it focuses mostly on these characters, and then they have love stories that branch out from there. But again, I am excited to read this one. I'm hoping that having this romance on there will sort of scratch my itch to read romance. I wasn't really in the mood in February to read a lot of romances, which makes me sad because typically I like to read romances around Valentine's Day. That might be corny, but I do enjoy that. But I have been kind of in the mood for something like lighter and fluffier recently. Basically nothing that I picked for my February TBR was really like getting me through it. I'll talk more about that in my February wrap up, but I am kind of in a reading slump right now. So I'm hoping having some of these shorter options will be a good balance with this chunker. And also will just be something new and fun and fresh that I can really dig my teeth into this month. The other thing I wanted to mention for March is that I am hoping to do the Spring into Reading Readathon, which is, I think it's seasonathon is what this like group of readathons is called. And I believe they have 4 a year. There are lots of prompts that I have not gone all the way through and picked books for each prompt, but my tentative idea is to just, each book that I'm reading, to write down as many prompts as it fulfills and try to get through all of them. Like I mentioned, there are 23 prompts on here, so I'm really hopeful that I can get through not 23 books, but that I can get all 23 prompts crossed off by reading like 10 or so books. That's about how much I realistically can say that I will definitely read, especially given the slumpiness that I'm feeling right now. But if you are participating in Spring Into Readathon, let me know. Or Spring Into Reading, I think is what it's called. Let me know in the comments down below. Also, let me know if you have read any of the books that I talked about today and how you felt about them. You can also feel free to leave your TBR in the comments down below, as I would love to see what other people are picking up at this time of year. The weather is beautiful where I live now, which is great. I'm sure it'll get cold again. I was joking with my coworker today that it's 75 degrees out today, which means that we're probably gonna get a snow here around Easter weekend. But it is that sweet spot of 2 weeks in the Midwest where it's like really warm for a little bit. It's like an early spring preview before we get our last frost of the year. But yeah, I'm really just enjoying the warmer weather, and the sun is staying out later, which is great. I'm filming this video after work, which I'm never able to do in the winter time, so it really does feel like we're pulling through to the other side. But thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in another video very soon. Bye!